The Adventure Jogger, a podcast about trail and ultra running. Meet fascinating runners from the front, middle, and back of the pack, sharing inspiring and funny stories about life and running. Running should be fun, and so should running podcasts. I'm your host, Stephen Kornhaus, and this is The Adventure Jogger. Well, in today's episode of the Adventure Jogger podcast, I've got a gentleman from Denver, Colorado, who has done something completely crazy for some burritos. We're going to get into all of that. But first of all, I want to welcome Sam Werner to the podcast. So welcome, Sam, to the Adventure Jogger podcast.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah, so we'll get into the whole Chipotle burrito challenge thing, which I know a lot of people are familiar with now because Jamil Curry has been doing like YouTube videos about it as well. And DC Rainmaker put out an article also, which is kind of where I saw your name. But before we dive into all things crazy challenge and burrito, I do want to hear like your running story. Like, how did you get into running? Have you always been a runner? Or was it just the burritos that brought you to running?
Yeah, I wouldn't say always been a runner. I got into it in middle school primarily. I did a little bit before that. I don't remember when, but primarily in middle school, I did basketball and tennis. And I discovered I didn't really have the necessary aggression to play basketball. My coach got on me for using my pointy elbows. I need to use them more. They're still pointy, but I don't use it very much. So I tried track in 8th grade and was kind of a natural at it. So I figured I would stick with that, try that in high school. Kind of backed off of tennis and basketball. That was getting to the point where everyone was doing travel leagues and that wasn't really something I was doing. So it seemed like track was a better choice because I could just run by myself over the summer, kind of build things up. I already knew some people on the team, so that was helpful. So got into a freshman year. Was one of the better freshmen on the team. Nothing crazy good. I think it was mid-low 19s for a 5K cross country. So who knows if that's
in high school
accurate or not. Yeah.
Wow.
And then kind of ebbed and flowed through. I've always been like very interested in the I don't know, like learning about running and like running culture and stuff. And I hopped on the barefoot running train sophomore year. Did not go well. I got slower. So kind of lost a year there, but brought it back eventually. And then really just put in the miles before senior year of high school. I was working as a lifeguard and had plenty of time. Sometimes I would just run to work, do a nice double, get the mileage in. And then started doing pretty well senior year. I didn't really enjoy doing longer stuff in track. So cross country was kind of where the longest I did. And then I did mostly 800s in track. So that was a bit of a change, a little more on the speedy side. I kind of enjoyed just going fast and hurting for a short period of time instead of hurting for a longer period of time. So it's been quite a transition moving into the longer stuff now. But I did that.
So
yeah, I did that. And it was, I mean, it's an important part of my life. It was an important part of my life, but it wasn't really the biggest piece. I was always like into academics and all that stuff. So I probably could have picked some local D3 school to go to if I wanted to, but I didn't really think that was the right choice for me longer term. So I ended up going to University of Iowa, mostly for academic stuff, and then discovered they had a track club a couple weeks in. So I joined that. It was fairly casual. It wasn't well, I think it's what you get out of it. It's what you put in. So I didn't put in that much. I was pretty much stagnated right at where I was in high school, which didn't get worse. Well, I got a little worse on the 5K, but kind of changed around events a little bit. Spent some time doing 4s and 8s. So cut those times down a little bit. But that was kind of the journey through college. Mostly just trying to keep active with it, trying to hang out with my friends there. I did get a chance to do discus and shot put in one meet because club you can do whatever you want. Discus went okay. Shot put did not. That's much more power based.
No, wait, hold on. Shot put's the one where you hold like the thing up against your neck, right? And like you turn and push. Okay. Yeah, that seems incredibly difficult. Okay.
Yeah,
Like how
it's the
much does it
same weight
weigh?
as a bowling, like 16 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
it just
insane.
dribbled off of me. It wasn't good.
Well, I want to ask you a couple of questions real quick. First, with the track and field stuff, like what
Sure.
is a hammer in the track and field? Does it look like an actual hammer?
No, um it's like a just like a steel ball with a chain and a handle on it.
Oh, so
Um
almost like a medieval mace, you would think.
yeah, yeah, similar to that. So there's no like solid handle. It's just like a loop that you put your hands on and then a chain and like a big ball on the end. I never saw it in person, I don't think.
Okay.
They didn't really for the club team, they were the real team was not really enthused about letting us use the good equipment. So we didn't even get javelin. But
You guys got like the broken stuff that they replaced.
yeah. Yeah, when I went to
Okay.
discus, we had such a like an old shipped discus that the officials were like, "I don't think this is legal." I'm like, "I'm getting last. It doesn't matter. I'm just here for fun."
Right. Okay. Well, I want to go back to you mentioned that you got into like the barefoot thing. Now, what took you
Mhm.
to that? Was that did you happen to read like the Born to Run book, or was this like your coach, or what made you try barefoot running?
So I think I'd have to double check when I got the book. I did read Born to Run. I think it was someone else on the cross country team told me about it, and I thought it was just like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to run. This is a good choice for me. I was like very slow cadence, heel strikey type runner until then. And I figured if I quickened my cadence and like switched over to barefoot shoe, I think it was the New Balance Minimus, if I remember right.
Okay.
Um, I thought that would help me. I think I think it is possible to make improvements using that kind of method. I think I didn't do it right. Uh, it's not right for everyone, obviously. I don't think it was right for me at the time, but yeah, not my first time chasing training fads, and probably not my last.
Right, seriously. Well, I mean, like as a running coach, I know, before I started, educating myself and learning more about, coaching and physiology, that's always what people talked about, especially in the trail and ultra world, is
Or,
barefoot running because the Tara Humara made that famous in the book, and it just seemed like you said, a running fad. But I know when I was becoming a coach, taking the course, they kind of mentioned that that's not really the case. Like, sure, that might be great for some people, but everybody's body is just built differently. So some people are more naturally built to run a heel strike
or,
or a midfoot strike or a forefoot strike, and it's like each person is different and they have their own individual way that suits them best. So there's not like a one size fits all. Everybody needs to run, barefoot kind of thing. So I mean, I did the same thing though. I tried it. I got the, the really, minimalist shoes and went out and tried to do that before and going barefoot as well. And it's just the same for me. It was not for me.
yeah, yeah.
You
I
also,
think. Go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I think a big difference that people overlook is that uh, it's a little different running on concrete versus running on like trails
Oh
in the
my God.
wilderness. So
Absolutely.
I don't think humans were meant to be. I don't think we evolved to be running on concrete.
Right. Yeah. Cause that's, everybody's running barefoot back when it was just dirt trails or dirt
Yeah.
roads to places. It wasn't hard asphalt or like a crushed aggregate that's poking up into your foot.
Right.
Well, you mentioned you ran 800s in high school. I'm curious, what was your fastest 800 time?
I think in high school, I think I ran 206.7,
Oh, wow.
206.7, something like that.
It's pretty
Um,
quick.
yeah, I was pretty happy with that. It was,
Yeah.
we were a pretty historically fast school. So I was not really close to the school records. And it was kind of disappointing that I'd spend a whole season training and then some 400 runner would just try it once just for fun and blow my doors off. But, we did have one year we had four Sams on the team. So we ran a 4 by Sam, and I think all of us had a really bad day with it, and we got last, but it was worth it for the experience.
Right. That sounds fun. Now, was this school here in Colorado? Did you grow up in Colorado?
No, actually, I grew up in Iowa. So
Okay.
grew up in Iowa. I went to the University of Iowa, where I ran club track, and really just moved out here primarily for mountains. I found a job that's out here, and it seemed like a better fit. I came out here a few times and just really enjoyed it a lot. Thought it was the place for me. My parents
Yeah.
weren't thrilled with the 11-hour drive, but it was. I think it works better for me.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you got us through high school and into college. You ran as well. So what did your running journey look like after college? Did you kind of take a break for a career for a while, or did you keep it up and run all through, being a professional, or what did that look like?
Yeah, generously, I would say I took a job. I took a break from my career. More realistically, it was I had shin splints and I didn't know how to deal with it, so I just kind of gave up.
Yeah.
So that lasted a couple years, I think. I didn't really run much 2019, and then 2020, obviously COVID happened, and I was trying to build back up and got shin splints again. So switched back. I switched to doing some cycling, just trying to stay in good shape, mostly for hiking. Uh, Bit of a tangent, but I'm the rare person who's into road running and hiking, and I don't do that much trail running. So I probably should get into that.
That is rare. Yeah. I
Yeah.
did see on Facebook you had some photos from hiking several 14ers. I saw a Longs Peak. I saw a picture, and I think there was another I can't remember the name of the peak now that you had a picture of, but yeah, it looks like you've done several. Have you done all 58, or how many of the 14ers have you done here in Colorado?
I'm up to 53,
Oh,
so
wow.
getting close. I have just a handful left. The two that are difficult to access, Culebra, Lindsay, and then I have El Diente, which I've failed twice. Snowmass I've failed once, and Kit Carson I've failed once.
Oh, wow. Now,
So,
what caused you to fail these? Weather or?
um, couple of them, Snowmass and Kit Carson, it was snow just wasn't prepared for it. I was with a friend. He didn't have an ice axe with him. The snow was getting a little softer than we wanted it to be, so we turned around. It really hurts turning around at 20 miles out of a 22-mile hike,
Oh my
but
gosh.
I think it was the safe choice.
Yeah.
And then the other one, El Diente, I took a week vacation just to go out to the San Juans and try to knock out some 14ers. And El Diente, I tried once from, I don't remember which side, the cardinal direction, but I tried it once from Navajo Basin side. I didn't realize it was supposed to be a snow route. I was just loose class 3, and then went back a couple days later to the other side, went up that, and there was a cloud parked on top the whole time.
Oh
And
no.
I got up to about 13,950, and I just couldn't see the next moves. The red description was like, "Oh, climb up this weird rock formation." It's like, I don't see a rock formation, so I think I should probably turn around. I
Now, what's the summit of El Diente?
think it's 14,200 or something.
Oh
So I
my
was still a
goodness.
few hundred feet away, but it was
300 feet,
close.
but still, that's
Yeah.
a lot of scrambling and danger. Was that a route that has a lot of exposure?
I think it has more exposure once you get a little higher. It
Okay.
wasn't super exposed where I was. It was just kind of wet, which,
Okay.
you know, wet rock being by yourself, not a smart
Not
choice.
smart. No, I've only done two 14ers here in actually, no, wait a minute. I've only done Pikes Peak. I tried to do Sherman, which is like one of the easiest ones, but I had my kids with me, and
Yeah.
my youngest son, who was 8, was up with me, and we got to like 13.3, and he just started having like really bad anxiety with just
Oh, yeah.
there's not even really like hardly any exposure. So for people that don't know, like Sherman it's basically a rock hiking trail. I mean, you're not jumping over rocks, you're not climbing rocks. It's just hiking. But
Mhm.
it is at 13,000 feet, very windy. It was cold. And so he got some anxiety. So we had to turn around at like 13.3, 13.4. So I've only summited one, was Pikes Peak. But man, that's hats off to you, because like those 14ers just scare me, to be honest. Like I follow a lot of the search and rescue groups here in Colorado
Oh,
Springs,
yeah.
and in Colorado on Facebook. And I'm all the time seeing rescues and just horrible things. And it scares me. So, I'd like to do more, but I think it's one of those things where I'd have to be one of those people that started with the easiest and worked all the way up to the most difficult just to build my experience, because I don't have experience with ice axes or those kind of things. Like, I mean, so
Yeah.
how did you get to that level where you felt comfortable doing those things?
It's a good question. I kind of just went pedal to metal my first summer here.
What
I
year was that?
started,
Your first summer?
I had an internship here in 2018.
Okay.
And then I moved out here permanently in 2019.
Okay.
So I think I did 10 14ers that first summer. So I
Oh,
just
wow.
every weekend I just went out there. I started with Longs Peak, which in hindsight I would not recommend.
I mean, that's
Uh,
one of the more difficult ones of the 58, right? Like, isn't that in the top for difficult?
yeah, it's in the top 10 or so,
I know
but
there's the most deaths on that mountain.
yeah,
That's
part of that's because it's close to the Front Range. If you're coming in from Denver, you're like, oh, it's close. I'll give that a
uh,
shot.
so a
You
lot of
can see it all the
inexperienced
way from the
people
airport.
attempt it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, including me, I got lucky. That was good. Oh, but yeah, ice axe stuff, I think you kind of build into it over time. I've gotten lucky and had a few friends who are more advanced than me, and I can kind of piggyback on them and go along with go along on their trips, and they'll show me the ropes, show me what I need to do to
Right.
survive. So it's been really helpful, and I try to kind of pass that along to some of my younger friends who move out here, and it's partly helping them learn, partly selfishly I need someone to go with. So it's a little
Right.
dual purpose.
Okay. So you've got you said how many is it? You said 8 left? Or what?
5 left.
5 left. 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And now are you hoping to knock those all off this year?
That's the tentative plan. One of them has access issues that I'm not sure are going to be ironed out by then.
Yeah.
It's like the summit, I think from like 13,000 feet up is private property. And I don't know if you can get a waiver to get on there.
Oh no.
So I know like the Colorado 14ers initiative is working with the landowners and trying to figure that out. I haven't heard any updates in a while. So I'm not holding my breath. Hopefully I can knock them out this year, but that would be nice because that one's not crazy difficult compared to the other ones I have. So it would be nice to finish the 14ers with a bunch of friends, and I don't want to drag them up something that's 20 miles. So
Right.
hopefully that
Yeah.
one's open by the summer.
I think is it Ross is also like that,
Mhm.
where I think the summit is private. So like I think the 14ers Association now accepts the lower trail, which is like 200 feet below the summit.
Right.
Like you can count that as a summit, which is unfortunate that you can't make it all the way up there because I don't know the history behind that, but that's definitely unfortunate. So hopefully they can work it out with this landowner of the other mountain and so you can
Yeah, I
knock it
hope
off the
so.
list. Yeah.
Yeah. For us, at least, you can get close enough that you're basically there. I think this one, you pretty much only get to a saddle, and then you still have a
Oh
thousand
no.
feet. So
Oh
I feel
wow. That's
weird
a lot.
counting it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you mentioned you're like a road runner that, does hiking and all these 14ers and all, but you don't really, like or haven't done much trail running. Have you done some trail running in Colorado since you've been out here, or has it primarily just been all road?
Yeah, I've experimented with trail running. So for I think maybe a little over one summer, I was regularly going to a trail running club, Denver Trail Runners. I really enjoyed it. A lot of great people. The one downside was getting there. The traffic was just a pain coming from
Yeah.
before moving to Denver. I thought Denver was a whole lot closer to the mountains. It's not that close.
Right.
So going there after work, especially as days get shorter, it can be dark. I rolled my ankle on some downhill in September, and I was like, I think I'll pause for the year. And
Yeah.
I never ended up going back. I went back a couple times, but I got roped into a couple trail races. So one was in Lander, Wyoming. That one was pretty fun. I had a couple friends who were doing the 50K, and I hadn't seen them in a while, and they were like, "Oh, you should join us." Like, well, 50K is a lot. This is before I'd run a marathon, so I
Okay.
think my longest run ever had been 15 miles.
Oh
I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
well, is there a shorter race? So I did an 18K. Uh, it went pretty well. I went out way too fast, but I um, ended up holding on and got second place on that. A
Oh
pretty small
wow.
field. So my confidence in my abilities was maybe a little too high. So I had another race this past year in I think in Vail, just outside of Vail, maybe. So my girlfriend was doing it, and her brother-in-law were doing it, and her brother-in-law is maybe 45 or so, something like that. And I knew I was faster than him on flat, so I thought I would beat him on the trail race. And he smoked me just half an hour in, just blew by me. Never saw him again. He put 5 minutes into me on just the downhill alone.
Oh
So
wow.
I think flat running can get you a decent ways in trail running, but there's still a lot of skill there that I don't have.
Was this race in Vail, was it a pretty technical, like a lot of uphill and downhill?
It was Cougar Ridge Classic. It was 26K. I wouldn't say it was crazy technical. I don't remember how much vert there was. Maybe 3,500 feet, something
Okay.
like that.
Pretty good for 26K.
Yeah. So it was pretty much just straight up, straight down.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a whole lot of rolling happening. I think I just underestimated that the muscles that you use on uphill are different than flat. And I went at what I thought was a sustainable pace for that amount of time and just quickly blew up. And
Yeah.
just person after person passed me repeatedly. And just, I don't think I got passed on the downhill. There was one guy who caught me maybe a mile to go, but then the last half mile was on a road. So I took that right back.
Nice. Nice. Well, how did you end up finishing at that race?
I think 12th.
Oh, that's pretty good. Nice.
I was really overconfident coming into it, and then I learned the night before that there were a bunch of like pro cross country skiers who just do trail races in their off time, and it was in the summer, so wasn't aware of that. They showed up and put out a pretty good show.
Nice.
I think there was some prize money involved too, so that probably some attention as well.
I imagine it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you had mentioned with your friends with that 50K that you had not yet done a marathon. I'm assuming, have you now done a marathon or a couple?
Yeah, I've done 2, maybe 3, depending how you count them. I did California International Marathon in Sacramento in 23 and 24. So that was my first and second. And the other one I did was, I'm sure we'll get to it shortly, but it was during the Chipotle challenge.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it wasn't an official one, but yeah.
Now at CIM, I know that's a pretty fast course. What was your best time there?
Yeah, so it was my first marathon. I ran 2:40:08.
Wow.
So yeah, I waited long enough to get to the marathon where I was confident I was going to do decently well. So
that's really darn well. That's
yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm in a running club it's got a bunch of really fast guys, and that kind of just raises the bar for what feels attainable. So I think it didn't feel crazy out of reach getting into it. So that was helpful. I kind of blew up in the last 6 miles or so. Just slowed down quite a bit, but ended up being okay. And then this past year, just over a month ago, I did it again. And this one I was shooting for 2:35. Most of my running splits were on pace for that, but had some unfortunate bathroom stops that were worth about 4.5 minutes. So ended up, I got a PR by about 20 seconds, broke 2:40. It's like 2:39:46. So I'll take the PR. I'm happy with that, but not quite what I was hoping for, unfortunately.
Well, hopefully you didn't have a bathroom incident like that woman did in the Boston Marathon a couple years ago, where she went in someone's front yard, like it got caught on a Ring camera.
Oh, that news story was flashing through my head. There's a part of the course at 10 or so miles where you're in the woods, there's no houses, and I just kept looking over. I'm like, I could just duck into those woods there. But I was like, there might be a house, there might be a Ring camera. I don't want to do that.
Seriously, it'd be all over. It'd be all over. I run far, it'd be everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, that's really impressive. A 2:39 or even a 2, and that's what is the average pace for like a 2:40?
6:06 per mile.
Good Lord. That's crazy. That's like my 5K. That's that was my 5K. I'm nowhere near that now, but that was my 5K. That's insane. Wow, that's quick. Do you have any other marathons on the calendar for this year, or anything you're shooting for to maybe do a new PR?
Yeah, I'm kind of regretting signing up for so many because you got to sign up way in advance. But I have Boston coming up in 10 to 12 weeks. I'd have to double check the date on that, and then I have Chicago later in the summer.
Oh, nice.
So got those coming up. It's not going to leave me a whole lot of time to do anything else, but I got I'm planning for the marathon, and I also have an 800 goal. So a little conflicting, but I kind of want to do both, see how it goes.
Okay.
I like doing the faster stuff, kind of keep in touch with that speed side and avoid doing, 2-hour long run slogs. every week.
Now, are you going for like the world majors? Because you've done, CIM, is that one of the world majors or not? No, I don't think that
No,
is. No, Boston is obviously,
yeah,
and Chicago is as well, right?
yeah. Chicago
Okay.
is.
Are you going to try to do the rest? Well, I know that they just added one. Was it in Australia? I think I saw.
I think they added three. Yeah,
Really?
it's Australia, Shanghai, China, and I think Cape Town, South Africa.
So would that be 9 now to get
Yeah.
all? Wow.
So to answer your question, no, that's not my goal.
That's a lot of financial investment to do all of those races because, gosh, the travel alone would just be so expensive.
Yeah, it's the travel is a lot. The logistics are a big pain for a lot of them. I think Boston is kind of rare in that like you can just qualify with the time. If you want
Yeah.
to go to Tokyo, you got to get lucky with the lottery or run really really fast, and then they give you like 20 foreigners that option. So it's really tough to get into some of the other ones without
Wow.
getting lucky. So that's not high on my list of things I want to do. Maybe I'll try some ultras after this year. Who knows?
There you go. Okay. Now, would you stick to the pavement for ultras, or would you maybe try some trails?
Probably trails. I
Okay.
think maybe I don't know if there's many pavement ultras. I know there's some, but
Yeah, there's
uh,
quite a few. Yeah, or even with your speed, my goodness, you could probably do pretty darn well at a lot of those track events where they have like 24 hours where you do run as many miles as you can around a 400-meter track. I mean, there's people that make the US team that run 140, 160 miles in a 24-hour period,
geez.
which is nuts. I mean, just like an 8-minute pace or a 7 something pace, just absolutely insane for 24 hours.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't think I can hold
Oh,
that for 24 hours.
well, I mean, for you, gosh, that's an easy pace, right? Well, let's shift gears a little bit and let's talk about this Chipotle challenge here. So, I honestly did not know about this segment stuff until I saw the video from Jamil Corey on his YouTube channel, and then I looked into it a bit and saw more. So, for everybody out there that might not know what this is, like, break it down for us. Tell us, how you found this segment, this Strava segment challenge, and what it was, what the prize was. Like, give us all the details.
Yeah. So as of recording in January right now, it's the second annual of this event. But I primarily we're talking about the 2024 version. So Chipotle partnered with Strava to make a challenge where for last year it was 6 different cities throughout the U.S. They picked one segment that's right next to a Chipotle, and the person who did that segment the most times in January would get free Chipotle for a year. So free Chipotle for a year, that means 52 entrees. They just put it into your Chipotle app. But you get unlimited extras on that, so you can get queso, guac, all that fun stuff.
Ah,
But
okay.
I've been getting $17 burrito bowls for the last year. Uh,
Nice.
but the challenge, I think, so I'm in Denver. I don't remember the other cities off the top of my head, but I heard about it the day it started, which was on January 2nd. So my running club has a group chat. Someone found it and was like, I'm going to do this. And he was a good friend of mine who I run with a lot. And he told me his strategy was just going to be run 70 miles a week. From the first week, he was going to discourage everyone else and he was just going to coast to victory. Uh, he was not the only person with that idea, unfortunately. So that was, he went out there, he did that. I went out there, I ran the same distance as him. And we had another guy from the club do that as well. And for a few days, we were all keeping it fairly tame, basically doing what we'd been doing our previous mileage, just all in the segment. It's a 2 block segment next to Chipotle. It's 0.2 miles. It's a residential street that can get kind of busy. It's not great in the dark, but it's better than the other cities. So that was nice at least. Kind of hard to do workouts there because you're turning around every 2 minutes or so.
Right.
But we kind of just went back and forth for about a week, and then from there it started escalating. So I don't remember the mileage on the first couple of weeks. I think it started around 70, which is what we'd been holding on before that, and then slowly started ramping up into the 80s. People were starting to do doubles there. it was kind of just a great community vibe because anytime you go there, there's going to be someone running back and forth on this segment you can hop in with and chat and keep it
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
And so it's a 2/10 of a mile segment, and you just had to run the as many miles or log the most segments as possible through the entire month of January. Was that right?
Right. Entire month of
Okay.
January minus the first day. So 2nd through 31st.
2nd through 31st. Okay. So how many segments did you run, I guess, and how many miles did you get for this entire period?
Yeah. So it slowly ramped up over time. By the third week or so, it was a few. We had one new contender join, and then another one dropped out because he got sick. And so it was really just down to me and one other guy, Mark, and we were kind of going back and forth. He had a bit of a lead on me, and I had to go back to Iowa for a wedding. One of my friends was getting married, and I knew that, missing a whole weekend was going to be a problem. So I think it was a Friday. I went there. My flight was in early afternoon, so I took the day off work, and I just went there and I just back and forth just did a whole marathon there. So there was, I think, 63 segments, just 63 laps back and forth. The worst part was I wanted to order Chipotle when I finished so I could have something to eat before I got on the plane. And once I got inside the store, I realized I ordered to the wrong location that was across town, and I did not have time to go there. So didn't get my Chipotle post run. But yeah, we kept going back and forth. He quickly caught up from that marathon. He did his own marathon there. And it kept escalating until the last 10 days or so. He had maybe, I think, it's 35 mile lead on me. Excuse me. And I wasn't sure if I should keep going. I was starting to ramp the mileage up. I was getting over 100. I'd never been over 100 before. And one day I woke up at 6 or something. I was standing at the sink filling my water bottle, and I got the notification that he finished his run. I look at my watch, and he ran a marathon at 2:30 in the morning.
What?
like, oh no. If I don't make up ground today, I'm quitting. I don't want to do any of this anymore. I'm going to get hurt. So I ran that day. I ran the next day, and he didn't run all day. I was concerned. I wasn't sure if he was just running and not uploading it, which would be terrifying if I had no idea what he was at. Luckily, he wasn't. I'm to this day, I'm not sure why he didn't. He's been cryptic about it, but he stopped for a few days. I just floored it. I was doing 12 in the morning, 8 in the afternoon, or maybe vice versa. But I was just building up the mileage. Throughout the course of that week, I did 176 miles.
Oh my
just
goodness.
Segments back and forth. I think Saturday I did 15 in the morning and then 6 miles of walking and then 15 miles in the evening. So didn't really do anything else in all of January. But I think the final total, I had 1,041 segments back and forth for a total of 442 miles.
Gosh, in 1 month. That is insane. Now, what was the biggest day you did mileage, whether it was running, walking in one day for this challenge? Like, what was the most miles you did?
36 on that
30.
day I mentioned.
So that was that
So,
15, the 15 and the 6.
right.
Okay. That's insane. And now this is just day after day after day of logging these miles to get the most. So how much did you end up beating the second place guy by?
Oh, I don't remember off the top of my head what the segment count. I think I was ahead by around 40 miles by the end.
Okay.
I was
So pretty good.
I kept pressing on the on the pedal because he had done 5 or 6 Ironmans. I was very good at them, so I was really worried that on the last day he would just bust out 60 miles and
Right.
blow my doors off. So I had to keep a healthy enough lead to avoid that from happening.
Gosh, yeah, that's insane. I didn't even think about like somebody could literally go out and ghost train and like record 30-mile days and then upload them and like boom, there's 90 miles and you're just like, oh
Yeah.
crap. Like, oh, it just ruined your day. My goodness. So
I mean, what shoes were you running for this in? Obviously, probably. Well, I mean, who knows? You liked the barefoot. Was this a minimalist shoe, or were you wearing like a pretty cushioned shoe for this?
I was aggressively cushioned shoes. Uh, Unfortunately, I did not hear from Saucony, but it was almost entirely in Saucony's. They're kind of my go-to trainer just because I can usually get the previous model pretty cheap and they
Yeah.
work well with my feet. I think I think the big week I did most of my mileage in the Endorphin Pro 2.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty cushiony. Usually I'll get through maybe a couple hundred miles using it as a workout shoe. And then after that, it doesn't work great for workouts, but feels weird just throwing it away. So I'm like, well, might as well just do these easy runs in them. So
Yeah.
my pace slowed down quite a bit for the last, as the mileage went up, it slowed down to closer to like 9-minute pace and just kind of slogged away back and forth.
That's crazy. Like that's 2/10 of a mile back and forth. Like a lot of people struggle with the idea, like I told you about running those timed ultra marathons around a track, 400 meters, which is a quarter mile. Or, I ran a 24-hour and then a 40-hour race around a 2-mile loop. And so people think, oh my gosh, that's got to be so repetitive and just like crazy. But just a 2/10 of a mile segment back and forth. That's just in a city too. It's not like you have probably a lot of great scenery. It's just urban buildings that you're looking at the whole time and people, like you said, busy sidewalks. Did you have any issues where, like, I mean, did you ever bump into somebody on the sidewalk or hit someone?
Never bumped into anybody. I did talk to one of the residents. I think it was the last week or so. He was just wondering what we were doing. I'm surprised it took him that long. I explained the challenge. He's like, "Oh, maybe I should hop in that." It's like, well, you're about 300 miles behind, so
Yeah.
good luck. But
Right.
there was one guy who was he had a lot of stuff in his front yard, and he had his car was intentionally blocking the sidewalk all the time. He's an interesting character. So just kind of went on the other side of the sidewalk for going by that part. But
Trying to sabotage a little bit.
yeah,
What kind of thing
yeah,
did he have in his sign, like in his yard? Were like signs or something like that, or?
I think there may have been a little bit of hoarding going on.
Okay.
I don't want to dive, but it was just miscellaneous things.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really hard to identify specific things, but on the back and forth part, it sounds it sounds like monotonous and crazy, and like how could you do that every day? But I mentioned the other guy was an Ironman, and so he spent a lot of time in the pool, and he kind of just framed it as like, I mean, compared to the pool, this is exciting. The pool, you're just going back and forth 25 yards, just back and forth. Whereas this one, you get almost a quarter mile each direction. You just see there's trees, there's people walking around. And I think just not having to think about a route, you don't have to figure out like, where am I going to run today? How far do I want to go? You can just show up to the segment, just do it, shut your brain off. So honestly, I don't think I would have been able to do that much mileage on normal routes or just like a normal week. I think just having it on that one monotonous thing just took that question of where am I running, just took it out of it and made it easier to do.
That's an interesting perspective. I didn't think about that, but I mean, that does kind of make sense. You're like, well, where am I running today? Oh, same place. Gonna go run. It's like, you don't have to question it. It's just, you just go do it. So now you mentioned this was the second annual year that when you did it. So this was last January in 2024 that you did this challenge and won. So now was that the first year or that was the second year?
2024 was the first year.
Was the first year. Okay.
Right.
Got it. Now, like, I know this year, like the one I mentioned with Jamil Curry, like I see him logging like 30 to 50 miles a day, which is just nuts. I mean, like, I mean, I guess that's kind of his job, so he has the time to do that. But I mean, you work full time. I think I saw you're an actuary, right?
Yep.
Okay. And now is that the property and casualty side, or what side of the insurance business is that in?
I'm on the health side.
Health side. Okay. So, I mean, you work a normal, what is it, like a 9 to 5, 8 to 5 kind of job. And so you had to work these runs in around this. So were you going, I know you mentioned a couple times you would go in the morning. So like what time were you starting your runs?
I don't remember exactly what time. I was waking up around 6. Probably start the run around 6:30 or so. It was definitely tough getting the time in. I think it was it really helped that I was living with a roommate at the time who was a bodybuilder, and he was just focused on just work, lifting, and eating, recovering. So lifestyle wise, that was the perfect person to be living with. I was just able to like, oh, I'll just do what he's doing. Just eat as much as humanly possible, sleep for 9 hours, and then do it all again.
Right.
So
Okay. Now, what was your latest run that you ever did for this challenge? Were you out there at all like your friend did at 2:30 in the morning, or was it not quite that late?
I don't think I went quite that late. I think I probably finished up. I think I probably got home at like 11:30 p.m. once or twice. But
Okay.
I think what helped me with it was it was really kind of a recovery challenge. So because for like a longer race, it's about like how much food you can get in, all that stuff.
Right.
You can maintain your pace. It's kind of similar for this, maybe like the Tour de France, but much stupider. So it's really about like how much you can recover from. So I was focusing on eating as much as I could, sleeping as much as I could. Food quality started to take a little dip as I needed to eat more, but um, I was really just trying to maintain as much sleep as I could. So I tried to avoid doing any kind of weird early morning things that would hamper my sleep.
Okay.
The other guy he was a swim coach, so he had a meet the day that he ran the 2:30 a.m. marathon. So
Wow.
I think that's why he did it that day.
Okay. Now, did you ever fuel during any of these runs with a burrito from Chipotle?
Never during a run. I've had bad experiences fueling with, like heavy normal food during runs. Just not pleasant for me. So I did fuel with like for lunch every day. I have a pretty hefty smoothie, like oatmeal and a bunch of seeds and fruit and stuff. So I did do that on the day I did my marathon. I brought that smoothie, and every 5 miles I would just go take a few chugs. So that helped a lot. I don't think I would run right after eating Chipotle though. Big fan of Chipotle, obviously, but I don't think it's a pre-run food.
Yeah. I read somewhere that there was a guy in one of the cities that was doing the same segment, had never had Chipotle before he started this challenge, and like just saw this, was like, I'm gonna go do this. Like it's like, okay. I mean, if you've had Chipotle, it's good, and I could understand going out and doing it, but never having had it before. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
with so you said it was 52 entrees, so it's not like it's basically one per week. Can you go like 7 days a week, but you still only get that total 52, or is it only one per week you're allowed?
Yeah, you can use them however you want. So
Okay.
I think I would have gotten tired of it if I did 7 days in a row, but
Right.
sometimes like if I'm going with someone, I'll be like, oh, I'll buy you some Chipotle. Just use two up at once. Because honestly, before the challenge, I wasn't eating Chipotle every week. It was maybe once a month.
Right.
It's I try to keep it varied a little bit. Try to go to other places. It's not just the
Sure.
same thing every time. But yeah, obviously now it's trying to have it every week. But sometimes you miss a day, and it's like, well, I gotta make it up. Start using these so they don't expire.
Right. And you said it's a $17 burrito bowl with all the guac and stuff on it.
Yeah.
So that's like that's $884 right there a year, for 52 of them. So that's pretty awesome that Chipotle did this across all these cities. So
Pretty good deal. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, have you used all of them up already? I'm assuming
I've got two left.
two.
They,
Now, do you have
they,
to use them in a year?
you have to use them from a year of when you get them. So it took them a few
Okay.
days after the challenge. So they expire on April 5th.
Oh,
Or
okay.
no, sorry, February 5th, not April.
You've got about another week then, just about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I think I'll manage. Got a couple hard runs planned. That'll be perfect.
Right. Now, I know that they changed the cities this year. So Denver's not one of the cities in the running. But if it came back, would you go out and do this again?
Actually, Denver is one
Is
of
it
the
really?
cities. Yeah.
Well, okay. I didn't see that. I thought it was, I don't know, Flagstaff. There's one, I think was it New York? Is it New York?
Yeah, there's I think 25 cities now. So they expanded a
I
lot.
didn't see that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I
Man,
didn't realize it did well. They really enjoyed it, I guess. So they expanded it to a ton of different cities, a lot of college towns. But so Denver is doing it again. I don't want to spoil the fun, but I am not in the running for winning this year, unfortunately.
Did you
I
try?
went pretty. I did. I tried
Okay.
for a couple weeks. The guy who's currently winning, he changed his name on Strava, so I'm not gonna say his name because it seems like he probably doesn't want to. But
Okay.
amazed at his dedication. He's spending 4 hours a day out there just grinding it out. I don't have the time for that.
What kind of miles is he putting up every day then? If it's 4 hours, is that like a 25-mile day? What are we talking about?
So it seems like he's found a niche, kind of a, I don't want to say loophole, but the rules, you only get credit for the going on the segment one direction. So what you do to get back is up to you. So I, I'm not sure exactly, but I think what he's been doing, he's been running, pushing his bike and then biking back because
Huh.
the run part is only a segment. So
Interesting.
it's, yeah, I think it's, regardless of how that changes the difficulty, he's still out there for 4 hours a day, and that's just crazy impressive. So I'll graciously concede to him once the challenge is up in a few days.
That's crazy. I didn't even think about that. We're gonna have people like gaming the challenge now, like you mentioned. Like maybe they'll have a scooter at the other end and like come back and then run. Figuring out ways to do this. That's wow.
Yeah.
I was That's insane. So like I just looked up Jamil Corey for his. If anybody follows him on Strava, like I know he's said this before, but like I would not advise following his training plan. So he went from like 9 miles one week, 31 miles, 6 miles, 14 miles. Then he went to 85 miles, 142 miles, and then 237 miles last week. Like
Oh my gosh.
that's nuts. Like talk about way over 10%
Yeah.
that gain. My goodness gracious. That's
Maybe it's 10% a day.
maybe or an hour for him. My gosh.
Yeah.
I know that's insane. So well, I know you mentioned you had Boston and Chicago that you were doing this year. What else do you have any other big runs or any sporting event things planned this year that you're going to do?
No non-running sporting events. Skiing occasionally, if you count that as a sporting event, but I'm not competitive by any stretch of the imagination in skiing. The other couple races I have on the calendar, the Colfax Marathon Relay in Denver, that's a big one. So there's a big array of teams. Some of them are just clubs. They have a corporate relay too. So luckily, I have a lot of fast friends that I work with. So we've put together a team the last couple of years. We've been very competitive. We just got a new hire who's really fast, so I'm hoping we can move up a couple places next year.
Nice.
So, got that coming up. Got Boulder, and then I'm just gonna hop in some random 800s that I can find. Not a whole lot of 800s for adults, but
Yeah,
I'll find them.
imagine. Now, well, probably, I imagine you probably found some in Boulder, would be my guess, because that seems like the place you'd probably find something like that to do. And that's one of the bigger running towns in the country.
Yeah, I found quite a few in Boulder. There's, I think, two different, maybe competing series that happen in Boulder. So hopped in a few of those. I remember, I think it might be where I had my PR, but it was, oh no, sorry. I did a meet that was at CU Boulder. It was just an open meet. You could hop into it. I am not D1 caliber in the 800, so I did not get last, but I was far, far from the winners. And then some other community ones that just popped up along the way.
Now, you mentioned in high school you had a 206 was your PR. What was your PR? Because I think you said you got better than that in college, I believe. So what's your total PR in the 800?
Currently 204.52.
Wow. Okay.
So that was actually last year at one of those Boulder meets. So in college, I cut it down to 205 something.
Okay. So what were those? You said those D1 level athletes. What were they running in the 800?
Well, it was early in the season, so I don't remember the exact times, but usually D1 Colorado people probably running 148 to 150, something like that.
Yeah. That's just not. Well, even like a 204, that blows my mind because I've never been a fast guy. I mean, like my PR in the 5K I think is an 18:58, and
that's pretty quick.
That was like a one-time thing. Like it just no, my fastest 10K I think is like 41, and my fastest half marathon is like a 1:30. Like I've never been in like a really fast guy, and just for me, I mean, you mentioned it earlier how you want to keep doing the fast things and you like running fast.
Mhm.
I enjoyed it, but I found that like I didn't do it enough to where it didn't hurt so much. Like, cause now it's like those fast twitch fibers, like I'm 41. So they're long gone. Like, cause I just do it. Like, I just didn't keep up that speed work. So now if I was to go out and try to run like a fast, even a 400, my gosh, that would just be abysmal. I just didn't do the work to keep my body used to it because it's running fast hurts. I've said this on this podcast before. I think running a fast, all out, like PR level 5K, no matter what no matter what your fitness is, but that PR 5K effort, I think that's harder a lot of the times than a lot of people running like a 50K. Like it's hard on your body.
Mhm.
And so running 800s at a 204, 205 or whatever is just, that blows my mind.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think with the 800, it's different than other distances where, you know, in 5K you can kind of settle into a groove. Definitely in like a half marathon or marathon. I haven't done a
Sure.
50K, but I assume you kind of get in the rhythm. But in an 800, if you let up even for a second of just not pushing yourself through pain, you're gonna lose it. You're not gonna get the goal. So it's just holding your hand on the stove as long as you can, just pushing as hard as you can into the stove.
Right. My goodness. Well, there's a race in Castle. Well, it's in Palmer Lake that if you decide to try the ultra thing, you should give it a shot. It's the 24 hours of Palmer, and so it's literally a 8/10 of a mile loop around Palmer Lake, and it's crushed gravel, flat as a pancake, and it's a great place for somebody that's fast because like it's a 24-hour race. I think you can run whatever distance you can run whatever you want. You can go run 2 laps and call it a day, and you'll still get a medal. But if you run 100 miles in under that 24 hours, there's this really nice, shiny, like silver gold buckle that is awesome. And I mean, with your speed, if you ever decide to get into that ultra world, I'd recommend going and trying that out because it's flat, it's round, it's a fun race put on by great people. A lot of fun people go out. It's in September, so it's a great time of year. The weather's perfect. Definitely recommend checking that out. I think you could probably do pretty darn well there. There's not many people that have run 100 miles at that race, just because it's not known very well by a lot of people. It's a pretty small race, but yeah, I think you could do pretty well.
Oh, check it out. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I don't really have a sense of 100-mile times or of 24-hour or 100-mile times. Is that
Well,
generally like a benchmark people shoot for?
yes. Yeah. So in the ultra world, a sub 24-hour 100 is considered a big deal, no matter what
Sure.
kind of course it is. If it's flat, if it's elevation, sub 2400 is a big deal. Like my PR is a 22:48, and that was on a pretty flat course. Now a pace for a 24-hour 100 mile is only a 14:24. So that if you think about it, that's pretty slow for most people. But in 100 miles, it's things change. You mentioned your marathon, the last 6 miles you struggled at times. So it's like just imagine once you get over 70 miles, like the pain is next level at times if you've not trained well. So it's different. But I mean, you've got people. I don't know how much you know about the ultra scene, but I think the world record for a 100-mile time is in the 11-hour range. And that was set, I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe that was Zach Bitter. I don't know if he still has it. It was nuts, but that's
Wow.
it was like a 7-something pace, I believe, for 100 miles.
Jeez.
It's insane. So, but most mortals, like myself, are in that I'd say 24 to 28 or 30 hours. You have some 100-mile races that have cutoffs of 34 hours. All right, here we are. The 100-mile world record is held by Alexander Sorokin, and he ran it in 10 hours, 51 minutes, and 39 seconds at the Spartathlon in Israel.
What pace is that?
I would have to put that into a pace. It's a 6:31. Sorry, 6:31 pace. Yeah.
Wow.
Like for 100 miles,
and
right?
yeah, including whatever stoppage time he had. So he's probably going much
Right.
faster than that.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, you look at some of the top trail athletes in our sport, like Western States is considered like the Super Bowl, the biggest one of them all in America. And the record there is, I think, a 14:09 by Jim Walmsley, which is crazy. So yeah, it's just, it all depends on fitness level. And I would, with yours, from somebody from the outside, I don't know you very well, but from what I've seen on Strava, I know what you've told me, your pace wise, I would think a sub 2400 would be pretty darn easy for you to go out and knock out.
About easy.
Once you get the 100-mile experience, because certainly, the first one is the most painful for sure. But then once you do a couple of them, it's like anything. Like when you ran your first 5K or your first 800, it's like they get a little bit easier, even though they hurt. They get a little bit easier the more you do.
Yeah, I think I'll probably start with a 50K before I branch into 100 milers.
There you go. And there's so many great 50Ks here in Colorado. Amazing. You can jump into one every weekend in the spring and summer, just about.
I don't know if I would. I don't know how I'd handle that, but
yeah,
I'm sure I could find doing that frequently.
Yeah, it's a different experience for sure. I mean, I've only done one road marathon, and I probably won't ever do another one. It's just, I like I said, the fast thing. I think I ran a 3:14 or a 3:15. Was what I, but that marathon did have 1,600 feet of elevation gain. So it definitely was not a flat one. But yeah, I'd rather run a trail 50K or a 50-mile race any day than a fast road marathon. That hurt.
Yeah.
Well, what, for some of the folks out there right now, I guess they've only got a couple of days left in the January Strava segment challenge. What's a piece of advice that you would give to somebody out there trying to get to earn the burrito for a year, the Chipotle burritos?
That's a good question. I don't know how many of the segments are still competitive at this time. I think most of them are probably someone's run away with it and there's not a whole lot of competition. But last year, Washington, D.C., there were two guys duking it out to the bitter end. The guy who won, I think he ran 61 miles on the last day.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he got to talk to This American Life afterwards, so I think it was probably worth it for him. But I guess my advice would be, it wouldn't be fun to put in all that work to get second place. I think you can take a week off, focus on recovery. It's a great story. The Chipotle is good, but it's probably not the main. I think having that fun story to tell is probably more important than the burritos. So, just do what you can. If you need to take time off work, you make that choice for yourself. Who knows if that's a good idea?
Right.
But yeah, it's glory over pain, I guess.
To me, it seems like something like this would be probably something that maybe a lot of runners would aspire to. And maybe if they don't have a lot of experience, they'd see this and think, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to go do it. And then I could see people getting injured, going above what they're, jumping too much. Like Jamil Curry, go to 237 miles but if you take somebody who's never run or like a couch to 5K and then they go out and try to run, a 160-mile week, a 70-mile week, it'll be interesting to see how many people on Strava admit to, I got shin splints or something. It didn't, or, a stress fracture. My gosh, that could be brutal. How did you balance the recovery doing this? Were you doing the Normatec kind of legs every night or something? Or what was your recovery process?
Yeah, so I had a recovery routine I did every night before that anyway. I had some Achilles issues come up before CIM that year. So I had went to PT, had some exercise I was doing every night, mostly calf raises, some single leg RDLs, that kind of stuff. So I kept doing those. I amped up the intensity a little bit. I was doing a lot of warm-ups before each run. So I was doing, glute medius activation. That's probably the big one. The calf soleus stuff. That worked well for me. I probably should have taken more time off after the challenge. I felt okay a few days later. So I was like, oh, I'll just jump right back into it. And I did a workout and I did some plyometrics afterward. And then my Achilles was just like, nope, we're not doing that. So luckily it wasn't too bad. I was able to keep running and just had to scale back quite a bit. But I think definitely take some time off. It's as intense as doing like a big marathon or a big ultra marathon. Like the single day isn't too crazy, but just the accumulated fatigue over that time. Yeah.
Right. Well, I know there's a rule. Well, it's not really a rule, but let's say it's an unwritten rule in ultra running is essentially you take a day off for every 10 miles you race. So if you go out and do a 30-mile race, 50K, probably should take 3 days off. You do a 100-mile race, maybe you should take 10 days off, kind of thing. So I could imagine with something like this, where, like you said, that cumulative fatigue, just day after day after day. I mean, I don't know though. Like you hear the stories of people that go out and do these FKTs on like the Appalachian Trail or the Colorado Trail or whatever it is, and I've always heard it takes about a week to 10 days, and then your body kind of just accepts that it's going to be in pain, and it kind of blocks it out, and it adapts. So like I wonder almost if you experience something like that doing this back to. I mean, obviously you're not running 60 miles a day like people doing the Appalachian Trail, setting FKTs, but still you're running a marathon a day, 30 miles or whatever. That's a lot of cumulative fatigue. So I bet your body did go through that adjustment period and the adaptation where it just said, okay, I guess this is what we're doing, and just kept going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a few things there. I think the first one is kind of just knowing your body and knowing what's manageable pain and what's real bad pain.
Right.
If it's something sharp and acute, you should probably call it there, or at least stop and warm things up a little more, stretch a little more. So that was important, kind of trying to figure out like, is this going to go away after I run a mile or two, or is this going to sideline me? And then the other big thing was so I had never run, I think my biggest week before that was 87 miles. I was aiming for 75 miles a week, and that was just, I took a rest day like 8 days apart. So I had a rolling 7 that was 87. And I kind of thought that my body was going to fall apart if I cracked 87. I was like, this is bad. I need to back off here.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of reframed my thinking a little bit, going through the challenge and going way past my previous limits, that a lot of the limits that you put on yourself are kind of self-imposed. I think your body can handle more than you think, especially if you're willing to take the steps outside of running to improve your recovery or put in the time for it. Obviously, not everyone has, 4 hours a day to kill to go run back and forth in front of Chipotle. And I don't think you need to. I think I saw what I can accomplish if I'm willing to just focus on nothing else. It was just work, that, and sleep. And I saw that I can do that. And then when I'm not doing that, I know that it's a conscious choice not to do that. So I saw my limits, and now I know that's what I actually can do. And now I'm choosing to back off instead of choosing a lower point and saying that that's my absolute limit.
Right. I think that's huge. What you said, you said these limits that are like self-imposed, they're mental hurdles, but you also mentioned that as long as you're taking the time outside of running to do the things to make that necessary, to make that possible. I think that's so huge because a lot of people in ultra running specifically, they'll put a certain distance on a pedestal as that sounds impossible to me. Like I can't do that. And it's like they go out and run these miles. And in your case, running these miles in front of Chipotle. But you took the time to recover, to do these things necessary, the single leg RDLs, the calf raises, heel raises, the things that were helping you prevent injury, keeping you strong, recover, and eating well, sleeping well, are so necessary. And a lot of people just don't focus on that aspect of achieving this mental hurdle, this goal. And so I think that's huge. So I know in ultra running, that's one of the things that I really enjoy with the sport is finding out what you once thought was impossible is not. And like that pushing that boundary further and further and further. Cause like when I ran 100 miles for the first time, I thought that was like crazy, but then I did it. And then I did it again. And then I did it again and I got faster. And it's like I did it again. And it's just, it's insane what the body can do, whether it's running 100 miles in one day or whether it's running 442 miles over 1 month like you did. Like just that cumulative fatigue of something you've never run that many miles before, but yet you did it. And it's like just, it's insane. The body can do so much more than we think. And I really do believe, and I think you kind of are the same way, that really your mind is a lot of that limiting factor of what you can achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the mind is a limiting factor. And I think, just choices and prioritization are a big piece. Like I think
Yes.
for a lot of people, running is a big part of their life, but I don't have kids, but I know for a lot of people, kids are probably a more important part of their life. And I think if you want to spend time with your kids, I think that's probably more important than putting in all the miles in front of Chipotle.
Right.
So when people think of like, oh, this is my absolute limit, my genetic limit, I can't go faster than this. I like to think of just like, if someone paid you $500,000 a year to go train in rural Kenya, would you get faster? No responsibilities. Sure. Yeah, you definitely would. But like the choices you make, you're not a professional, or like if you're not a professional runner, you can't really be expecting to, don't train one and don't expect to be getting at the exact limit of what your body can handle. Right. There's a limit of what you can handle given everything else in your life.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, we could go on a whole nother tangent of like, gear, like running shoes. I think that's a big thing in that same mindset of what you just said, these priorities. And like, if you're not an elite ultra runner or elite runner, elite marathoner, elite 5K or whatever, it's like, don't train like one. And I believe personally that a lot of the shoe brands out there are trying to push people to go for those super shoes that, are the carbon plated $280 shoes, or the $300 or the $500 Adidas, what is it? The Adidas, Adizero, whatever it is now, the crazy one. It's just like a lot of people, it's like, you're not at that level where that level of shoe is going to make that minuscule difference that's going to get you to the victory and get you that bonus check for finishing first at Chicago. It's like, if you have the money, sure, spend it on it. But like, it's that priorities thing. It's like, realize what level you're at and focus on yourself and improving yourself, and not trying to be like the elite runner, I guess is what I'm going at. But like, it just seems like there's so many things out there that people could do that, whether it's buying the fastest shoe, the lightest pair of socks, or whatever, it's crazy. The sport. It's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like the shoe companies they've taken after the cycling companies, and they realize like, we can just tell the people who do this for a hobby, you need all this stuff.
Right. I know. Yeah. And there's even I forget what, there's a Solomon. Solomon has a shoe. I think it's out now. Gosh, I hope I'm not breaking an embargo. But I think it's out now. It's a marathon shoe targeted for people at like a certain pace. It's like not the elite people that are running like a 2:30, but this is targeted at like people running a 3-hour marathon pace. And it's like, literally, that's what they're marketing it towards. So it's like, if you're trying to do this, this shoe's for you. And it's like, I think eventually we're going to see shoe companies that are like, oh, well, this shoe is targeted for a 245 to a 250. So it's like, oh, well, I got to buy that shoe. It's like, it's just an endless cycle of spending more money.
I think if you start finding yourself having a different pair of shoes for races of slightly different lengths, you might be too far.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Sam, this has been a lot of fun, man. And just hearing your journey and about this Chipotle challenge thing is just really cool. And it's neat to see how you adapted through it and kind of recovered through it, the priorities you set, and just in doing it. It's really cool. And it sounds like you, maybe learned some lessons from that and you applied to this year, and maybe kind of pulled out wisely from this challenge where you were thinking, well, this guy's, he's on another level, like, kind of thing. So anyway, it's been great chatting with you, hearing about it, and enjoy those last 2 Chipotle meals.
Oh, I absolutely will. Thank you for having me on. It's been great talking to you and learning about the ultra running world.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, hopefully one of these years, we'll be hearing the name Sam Werner in the ultra scene as well and on the trails.
Oh, I'm sure I'll see you out there.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Adventure Jogger, please consider joining our Patreon and be sure to follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok for more content like this. Without your continued support, we would not be able to produce this type of content. So thank you so much to everyone that has listened, followed along, subscribed, liked, commented, you name it, donated on Patreon. Thank you.